the Zoom, the Zoom is under my wife's face, so that's why her name is showing up. I don't know,
Okay.
can you edit that?
It's okay.
It's okay. We see you though.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we know you ain't no transgender. Well, at least I know that.
Brother Daryl, we Brother Damon and I want to say thank you so much for joining the conversation. Assalamu alaikum to you, sir.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Brother, let me just start off by saying I want to thank Brother Damon for doing a fantastic job in reaching out to brothers like yourself, brothers that he looks up to, brothers that have come on to the platform of Real to Real and have offered so much valuable guidance and wisdom and some things that we've been privileged to share, life stories. And Brother Damon is just one of those brothers who has an awesome life story himself. So I want to thank him, and we want to thank you for joining the conversation.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. You know, Brother Damon asked me a couple of weeks ago as we were getting ready to invite more brothers on, and he was like, "Brother, what should we talk about?" You know, and I just let Damon pick a topic because Brother Damon has that street experience, and he also has the nation experience.
Right.
He has the collegiate experience. He's a very well-rounded brother. And so he picked the beautiful title from banging to becoming a productive man. Is that correct, sir? Is that it? Or did I?
Yes, sir.
Title? Okay, that's it. Okay, good. And I know with Brother Damon, I can only imagine what he's thinking based on the brothers that he knows like yourself, because I know Brother Damon just has a natural way of relating to people. And so, brother, we want to give you just the first couple of minutes to introduce yourself to the public and talk to us about how you came into Nation and how you became who you are, brother. So we definitely thank you for joining.
Oh, thank you for having me. My name is Brother Daryl Muhammad. So I was born and raised in San Diego, California. And so now, so my early years, so this is how I like to classify myself. Because me and Brother Damon, Brother Dorian, we always have this discussion. So when you say bang it, so this is how I look at myself. Now, I look at myself more as an associate of the gang, because I was more of a gambler.
Yeah.
Anybody that know me, they'll tell you, oh, well, they call me by my nickname, Tiger. They say any dice game that was around, he was there.
Yeah.
And so, but unfortunately, when you grow up in the neighborhood, you automatically going to be associated with that neighborhood that you grew up in. So if other people from rival neighborhoods see you, they see you with these groups of people, they're going to associate you with that group. And so now, when I look at banging, like from that perspective, a lot of my close friends, I look at them more as the banging type, the ones that was always fighting, the ones that would shoot. And so with that being said, me was more just around as a gambler, but I did understand that if I'm out with them guys, something go down, yes, I'm going to have to fight. So let me just say, so during high school years, so we had the crack era and in the 80s. So I'm in high school and I'm just trying to find myself. And, you know, I wasn't so much conscious of the Black movement. I heard little bits and pieces. So I remember getting ready to graduate from high school. The teacher told us to write this letter, and I wrote this letter. I said, well, what are my choices of leaving high school? I could go get a good job, or I could get more involved in the gang. And I remember my teacher came over to me. He said, I don't like your last choice. He said, please stay far away from that. So I started going to City College, still trying to find myself. And so when I went to City College, I started seeing brothers selling final calls. Yeah, I'll buy some. But it was until one day I remember 92.
Mhm.
And I never forget, we had this station, brother. They probably can remember on cable, Channel 24. They used to show the ministers on Sunday. And the shock of the hour, I'd never forget the first time I seen that lecture. I don't know why. That is one lecture of the minister. It's my favorite lecture of all time. And I still watch it to this day.
Yes, sir.
I love that lecture. But that lecture really got to me. So I started showing the interest. So now, mind you, so the dynamics of the gangs in San Diego was changing. Brother Damon could speak to this. So a lot of the blood gang members, the blood gangs, they always had a camaraderie, everybody got along. But in the 90s, it started changing. So I could remember one day, me, a group of my friends, something happened. So they said, you know what? We gotta go retaliate. Basically, we gotta go defend our honors. One of our friends got jumped. So I'm not gonna name the place we went, but Brother Dan could kind of figure it out. It's a known place. And I remember it's around 25, 30 brothers just walking through this complex. And we're looking for these other guys, but we didn't see nobody.
Yeah.
And I never forget people coming out saying, you know what, we're going to call the police. We're going to call the police. So I look at that. I said, you know what? A lot got me out of that, because let's just say we seen someone, something could have happened.
Right.
And I never forget, I started going to the mosque. And I remember one day I'm sitting at home. This is 92.
Mhm.
I was just tired, because I was going to church a little bit. But one thing that offended me, when the pastor once said that it was during the Rodney King riot, and I'll never forget, he said, some of you blacks are just as racist as white. I'm like, oh no, it's not the place for me. And so towards the end of these, going into December, I remember one day I'm sitting at home and I said, you know what? It's time for a change. So I called Brother John X. I said, Brother John, I said, pick me up Sunday, because I'm going to stand up.
Yeah.
You really going to stand up? I said, yes, pick me up. And so I remember he saying two brothers, but I can't remember. I know one of the brothers was Brother James Tuek. And I never forget, I went to mosque number 8, 3040 Imperial Avenue. And I remember I heard the lectures and I stood up. And at that time, I still had my long Jerry curl. Mm-hmm. And the next day, right before FOI class, a few hours, Brother Carl had a business. He had a barber shop. Yes, and I remember I went there and they said, oh, you really here to cut? You really serious? I said, yeah, cut it off. Yeah. And I cut my hair off. And I never forget, so this is after the FOI class. I went, the great brother Captain Salim Muhammad. I love Brother Salim. And I remember he looks over, he said, that's the brother with the Jerry curl. And he came and gave me a big hug and said, welcome to the ranks.
Wow. Brother, being that you came from gang life and into the nation, did you have ideas of wanting to be a married man when you came into the nation as you got out of the gang?
Oh, no. Let me tell you. So I always think about this. So before the nation, I had an example, my parents being together since they were teenagers, my grandparents being together since they were teenagers. But unfortunately for me, I didn't view marriage like that. My thing was, when I was growing up, a lot of guys, we would always talk to have a lot of women. So the marriage thing, that was something foreign to me. But when I came into the ranks and I started learning the teachers more, then I started getting more interested in marriage, because I remember I heard the word fornication. I'm like, what does fornication mean? I didn't even know what that meant. And people said, well, you're not some. I said, what kind of stuff? That was just foreign to me. But as I got familiar, but I can tell you this: when I first came in the ranks, I was really dedicated because this is what I wanted to do, and a lot of people were shocked because I can remember a lot of friends of mine. They had seen me, and they'd look. They're like, "Is that you?" Because everybody used to the Jerry curl. So no, the marriage. That wasn't something that I was looking forward to before I came in the
Yes,
nation.
sir. Well, because I know that's once you find out, because I know I had that experience too, where you find out, oh, this is called fornication. This is not good.
Yes, sir.
So then it's like, well, okay, I know for me, I was like, well, I want to do it again, but I know I got to do it the right way.
Right.
So for you, was it when you learned about, we're as men are supposed to be married, was it a difficult concept for you to grasp? And who would you say stood out to you as a real good example for you?
Okay, so yes, it was difficult, but as far as like in the ranks, I always look to Brother Ron and Sister Connie. This was an older couple. They were a perfect example. In fact, before I actually got married, I did have counsel with them and got advice from them. And then I also, at the time when I started courting my current wife, Brother Jimmy, and I remember me and Brother Jimmy and Sister Katina, they came on a courtship with me and my future wife at that time. But Sister Connie and Brother Ron stood out because they were believers prior to 75. Then I also Sister Mary and Brother Bernard. These were older couples that I looked at because it wasn't at that time, wasn't so many younger couples. Like when I mean younger, I was more speaking in my age group that I was seeing that was examples at that time. Those are the two couples that stood out for me.
Wow. And when you got counseled, what were some of the things that were shared with you that you recall that really stood to you and stuck with you?
Well, Brother Ron, Sister Connie, one of the things that I could remember, they were just telling me, well, Brother Ron was joking. He said, well, Brother Darren, you're not going to always get your way. So you got to yield. You got to yield sometime, and you got to come together and work together as a family. But when I look back, marriage, it's just sometimes I sit and I said, God, I can't believe that I actually got married because I think about my old life. But I know that it's a lot of trial and tribulation, dealing with marriage, but it's a beautiful thing. And it's something that I'm very glad that I actually did go through with it. But just having those examples. But I love how Sister Rhonda, Brother Ron and Sister Connie, they as a couple, how they were examples, like far as like having income by working. Mm-hmm. And they stressed that. They said, no, brother, you got to take care of your wife. You got to make sure if you got to have a job, you got to get out there. You got to take care of your family. So that was something that I also remember.
Yes, sir. When you were explaining the incident where you and the gangs went into the apartment, it made me think about very much like the FOI.
Oh, and yes, sir.
Being together with other brothers and having that group mentality is something that I've always appreciated. Brothers who came into the ranks who were in gangs, because just understand the nature of people. If anybody understands the ups of people and the downs of people, it's people who have been in gang life. As you developed into a husband, what would you say that you learned about yourself that put you on the path to where you are now in terms of being a family man?
Well, okay, so let me say, so this is where it was different for me when you start talking about the family life. So my wife, was she was married before she already had 2 children. So that was a big challenge because I understand as a child, they will want their parents to stay together. So I love those 2 children as I love them today as my own. So I had to take that on to help raise them. It was the greatest experience. I would change it for anything. And so going through that, it made me realize, the children need love. They need example. A lot of, unfortunately, you got a lot of men, if they can't be with the woman, then they like say, well, screw the children. I can't stand that. Wow. Just because you're not with the woman, you take care of your children. So I seen that they had a need and they needed that love. And I was glad that I was able to be there. And then when my wife, I had my first biological son, that was a feat in itself. And just like him, when he was born, and I'm thinking about the challenges of what he's going to have to face. And I'm going to tell you, just like dealing with the gang situation, I have been on my son, big time. And this is something that I focus with him, and I try to be a good example for him to show him that it's not about the fast life. You got to struggle, but you gotta get out there and work and earn what you want. You got goals. So I try to set goals for him, show him, look, son, if you do X, Y, Z, you would be where you need to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And would you say that, for your son, how would you say things are so, because I know that when I was coming up, there was a real threat in San Antonio, Texas for gangs because Crips and Bloods were at each other, especially on the military base I was at. It wasn't so big on a military base, but I know the threat is different because I know gangs they're not as clicked up. Gangs are kind of doing their own thing now, but there has been some development in terms of the message of Nipsey Hussle, in terms of breaking many of the barriers down. What would you say is a big struggle that you see for younger ones coming up, trying to steer away from gang life?
Okay, so I'm just looking, as my son. So the thing is, it's like this. So for them, what I have seen, a lot of them don't have positive male role models in their life. So when they go to school, all they know is this fast life, gang life. They getting influenced because some of the children, their father, parents, some may be deceased and some may be in the prison. So as my son was going to school, I used to tell him, we used to go over, because I remember, I never forget one time I told him about all the different gangs, but then I started seeing that he started getting influenced by some of his friends, and he was slowly, that I see, going in that direction. So let me tell you what I did. So one of the things, not only did I talk to him, but I said, okay, I never been to prison. So I can't only give him secondhand information. So let me do this. So I reached out to one of my good older friends, Greg Cruz. He been in prison. He was my son's age one time, so he knew the struggle my son was going through. So when he came over, he said, no problem. He came over, talked to my son, and then I have a good friend, DRC Stewart, who's been locked up since 1995. And I'm praying for his release coming September. I told him the direction my son may be going in. So when he called me, he talked to my son and it helped. But let me tell you what's really sad. Me and my son, we talking, he'd come to me, he's like, Dad, do you remember so-and-so I played football with, I went to school with? Oh, they just arrested him for murder. He showed me a case of one of the young brother had about 4 or 5 murder charges, all attempted murder. So a lot of his friends that he was in a circle with, a lot of them are getting arrested, and I mean for serious crime. So he still kind of struggled because he sees like you see videos, rappers with money And so, but I had to tell him, the fast life is not the route to take. I said, you seeing what's happened around you, everybody's getting locked up. Be blessed. Yeah, well, Allah bless you to wake up in the morning. You got another chance to make it right. You're not in their situation, but he has a good heart. He still reaches out like he does, like I do. He reaches out to his friends and write them, but I still stay on him, try to keep him focused.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When you were telling me about when you used to gamble, I remember having a friend who was very much like that. Whenever we had some friends who would do a lot of risky behavior.
Yes.
But I had a few friends who was like, look, we just gonna shoot here and throw quarters or do something. And I know, was it difficult for you? Because I know it comes with a lot of risk, gambling and the gang life. Was it difficult for you to set it down, to strive to be productive, to be a family man? Was it difficult?
Okay, so yes, let me tell you. So you got to understand, I was gambling since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Just like you said, we used to, at elementary school, we used to go in the bathroom, pitch the hoop quarter, get closer to the wall, and then it got to the dice as I got older. But so here's the thing. So then, of course, I was a little kid. I used to go with my mom and my grandparents down to, we used to cross the border, T1, a place called Caliente. So the horses was running in the daytime, and then the dogs would run at night. So I had a heavy influence on gambling. And, my father didn't like this. And I understood later on why he didn't like this. So I had a gamble. So when Christmas time would come, they'd give me $300 or $400 for Christmas. I'd go lose it all. Bet no horses. And so I come home, I'm sad, I'm depressed. But now, so I tell everybody this story. I said, you know what? So that time, losing $300 or $400 is different when you live it with your parents. You don't have to pay rent. Right. You don't have to pay no gas. You don't have to pay no light, no cable bill. All you do, go to the room, cry, and wake up again, and hopefully you can get some more money, try to win that money back, and then you end up losing more and more money. But as a man getting married, oh no. You got to get rid of that type of behavior, because now you got a responsibility, because you don't pay that rent, you and your family's outside. You don't pay the electric bill, you don't have no electricity to cook. So I learned that responsibility. I had to change that really quick. And I remember when I first got into the nation, I stopped gambling. A lot of my friends, they cracked up. They said, "Oh, you really gonna give up gambling?" I said, "Yeah." And they laughed and laughed. And then they said, "Okay." They said, "Okay, we're gonna test you with that hip before they bring some dice." And I just laughed and I said, "No," I'm done with the gambling.
Brother Fata, well, it's funny. I didn't know Brother Durrell because we was from different neighborhoods. But every time I would go to a party, a house party, or a Skyline Park, I would see him gambling. He always stood out because of his jerry curl. So when I joined the nation, as a matter of fact, he picked me up. Him and a brother named Jerry Ali Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with him. And he went to school with high school with my big sister. And then we started talking about gang life. and I like, I knew him by name, street name, because you know when you popular, you hear about each other. So when I saw him at the mosque, we instantly clicked.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But he was always gambling every time I went to a party. I saw.
Yeah, that's all I ever did.
That's how I knew who he was.
Yes, sir. I many people I know, for me, in the area I grew up in, San Antonio, my father and his brothers, they were part of the generation that after San Antonio got integrated, they had to fight a lot of white people.
Okay.
So my father and his 4 brothers, they were known for fighting white people. And so I didn't necessarily grow up around gang life. It was kind of already kind of built into me where my father he didn't want me to do that. And it wasn't that necessarily he didn't have to tell me, because it just really wasn't around me tough. But I do think that there's a certain level of experience of dealing with life that many of you come into the nation with, that automatically bonds you when you come into the nation together and you see each other. Okay, so I want to speak about what you think or how gang life fit you for the nation, because you were called out of that. You and brother were called out of that. And I know Allah sees something in brothers like yourself, because it gives you something that you offer to the nation. What would you say gang life did for you that would you say made you ready for the nation?
Well, one of the things that I would say, the love, because I was different, like the love that I have for my homeboys, and I never forgive, one of my homeboys he did like 25 years. He got out, and I remember I met one of his friends. He came up to me, he said, oh, so he called me by my nickname. He said, Tiger. He said, let me tell you something. Your homeboys in prison, they love you. They said if it's one person that they could depend on that's always there for them, it's you. They got a lot of love for you. So I learned when I came in the nation, I always loved the unity. And so that just fit and just being with the nation, coming in there with the unity, with the FY, it was a beautiful thing. So I'm gonna go back. So I remember I was standing post one night at the mosque. So these young Crip brothers came up to me and they said, oh, we know who you are. And I'm like, yeah. So they said, oh, we heard you used to be for Skyline. And that's my neighborhood. And then they start saying, killer, try to get me upset. They said, so if we did something to you right now, what you gonna do? You gonna call your friends from Skyline come over? I said, number one, brothers, you're not gonna do anything. And I said, no, I don't need to call them, because the FOI, we handle our own business. We don't need no one else to take care. So, and then they laugh and they say, oh, no, we were just messing with you. But just coming in, I think, I think the love that I have for my people outside before I came in the nation, that's what I brought to the nation. And, I remember the nation. I just remember first coming in. I mean, that was my life, but I just love the brotherhood, those unity pushes. I used to love going on those unity pushes, all the brothers out, everybody sharing our experience and building that unity. And that was important for us. And that's something like me, brother Damon, another brother Dorian, who has the same background, brother Charles. One of the things that we always wanted to do, we always wanted to go back into our neighborhoods trying to make a difference. But at that time, brother Damon, I mean, he could bear witness to this. Fortunately, the leadership that we had at the time, I mean, they meant well, but they didn't quite understand like we understood. There were brothers that they brought to the mosque. I used to tell them, he's not ready to fall into the ranks. I said, this is what you could do with him. You could mentor him. He could go back with that message. All those younger brothers that look up to him, that's not fully in banging, he could bring them into the fold. But they, at that time, they didn't really listen to us, because we knew. And right. Unfortunately, brother Damon, no, there was a war going on, and so I started losing friends, and so that really kind of made me really want to go out. So we was kind of limited because we couldn't do exactly what we wanted to do to bring about change. But I do know we made great attempts to do what we could under the circumstances.
Yes, right. Yes, sir. And I really do believe that when you've seen somebody in a situation like when Brother Damon would see you at the parties and then see you at the mosque, you can't help but remember what people are like. And then it takes a lot of wisdom to be able to share with somebody, hey, this person probably may not be ready. And
right.
so I've taken a lot of advice from brothers. When I was in the San Antonio study group, there were brothers who came in who did time in prison, and I listened to them because I know that when you're in street life, there's a lot of realities that you have to deal with, and it's not always a positive outcome. So because the nation plays such a positive role in your life, and for young brothers who are coming into the nation or are hearing this and want to be a family man and want to be a productive man, what is one or two pieces of advice that you would give to a brother who's trying to find his way to become a family man and to be a productive man?
Well, I would definitely say one of the things that I would definitely say, if you coming into the room trying to find an older couple that's been married for many years, and sit down and talk with them, because it's gonna be a struggle. But you got to hear out, you got to listen to what individuals that's married is telling you. You take the good and you take the bad, and you got to kind of disciple through that. But it's a lot of work. It really is. It's a lot of work, and I still to this day, it's been a long journey. But I would say, brothers, you gotta keep up your prayer. Read materials from the minister to the messenger. Read all of that, take all of that in, and go on that journey, because at the end, I mean, it could be a great journey. But I just, God, I mean, when I think about it's a lot. It's a lot, because when you're used to being a certain way, now you got to be being a family man. But one thing I will stress: you got to put your family first. You got to see, that's one thing that about me, my family is first. If it's gonna come, my wife, my children need something, forget what I may say I need and want. They're gonna come first. I'm always gonna come first. My last money is going on my family. I could survive, I could say, you know what? It's time for me to make a sacrifice. I could wait to get these things that I want. You always got to put your family first. You got to protect your family. You be out there, I'm always thinking about my family. And, one of the things that I think that we don't think about that always transpire in my mind, I always think about, if something happened to me today, what will my family be like? So I always say, while I'm living, I also is preparing just the unfortunate that something was to happen to me, that my family be secure. I don't want my family dependent on no one else. So that's something that I think about daily. So what I do, and whether it be working, but I'm trying to build something now. So if something happened to me, my family, they could just fall right in place. They don't have to depend on no one else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother, we want to say, we got about 5 minutes left. And I just want to say thank you, because, in the times that we live in, I don't ever want to take it for granted the power, the brotherhood that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has strove to help build for us. So here we are. We can sit in Texas and talk to a brother all the way in San Diego and speak about a similar reference point, because this is what saved us. Wanting to be a family man, wanting to be a better man. It saved our lives. It
definitely did.
Yeah. It humbles me when I hear stories like yours and Brother Damon and Brother Sean, because I know that if it wasn't for God's grace, many of us would be dead.
You sure right.
No.
Exactly.
So I just want to say thank you, and I want to say thank you again to Brother Damon, because I understand. I'm starting to understand why Brother Damon knows so many brothers. Because I know it must have been popping in California, in San Diego.
Oh yes, sir.
I know San Diego is where the Navy meets, but Sandy just kind of has that energy where there were a lot of brothers who came into the ranks who had and made big impacts on brothers in the nation.
Yes, sir.
So, brother, we got about 3 minutes, about 2 minutes left. I want to give you the last closing words.
Well, I just want to say, we as Black men, we got to step it up. We got to be there for our family. Look after our children. Because one of the things that I stress, some of us like to go out in the community, help the community, and I'm big on that. But I always told myself, I have a son. My first example, I got to be there for him. If I can't be there for him and show him the way, how can I go out and lecture other young men? But I just want to say, we time, but Allah is with us. We're going to get through these times, but we got to stick together. But again, protect your family. That's number one, because it's some of the mess that I see online. Our sisters getting attacked by these devils and other people. Instead of getting in to try to protect our sisters, they film it. I don't have time to film, because anybody attacking one of our sisters, I'm going to step in. That's just how I am. But I just said, it's a blessing. And I say this to the brothers that's coming in the nation, personality worship, get away from it, because it'll hurt you in the end. Because Brother Damon could attest to, we come in, we worship, we like this personality, but then you find out that they don't live up to that expectation because you so far worried about them. Remember why you're there. And if you remember why you're there and don't get caught up and personality, know that we all striving to be righteous, you're going to be all right.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother, we want to thank you once again for joining the conversation here at Real to Real. We look forward to, I know there's a whole lot more. I know I tried to ask as many questions about family life, but it was just so interesting hearing the first opening part of your life story. So we definitely want to have you to come back on so we can speak more in detail about family life. But it's very difficult sometimes when brothers give their testimony, because it hits me so hard sometimes. It can affect my questions because my spirit gets hit and I'm starting to get fed by it. So we definitely thank you, and we look forward to talking with you again soon, brother.
Yes, sir. I look forward to coming back on. Just let me know. I'll come back on anytime you guys want me to come on.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Wa alaikum salam.